the sky, spirit on the wind. Stand by the ocean, everything of your motion can concentrate. Getting all your mighty glory vanished from the sky. Just another story.
Virus database has been updated.
Man-made because of how it fell from the sky.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host. I'm Clay Douglas, and my guest today is John de Nugent. Hello, John. How are you?
Just fine up here in freezing, frigid, snowy Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How are you, Clay?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm down here in nice, warm. Well, it's just a sprinkling a little bit today, and it's about 46 degrees out.
Oh my goodness! Well, I tell you, yesterday morning it was 7 degrees. And I've been predicting on my blog at JdeNugent1.wmv that based on the information I have, the oil wells are still leaking into the Gulf of Mexico, and the Gulf Stream is being interrupted, and we could be heading into another little ice age. And we have had an extremely harsh winter in many parts of the north of the United States. Last year, I've been here now for 3 winters in Pittsburgh, which is where my father's side of the family is from, and I moved back here. We had 70 degrees just before Christmas last year, and we had 7 degrees a few mornings ago at 8 a.m. A drastic change. And let me just add on that, I read German, and I was reading Der Spiegel this morning, which is the big news magazine over in Germany, and there's so much snow in Germany that gasoline stations are running out of fuel to sell to the public because the gasoline trucks can't get through. And let me tell you, when a truck can't get through, the snow is really deep.
That's true. That's true. This is
So
happening
they're
in
having
Germany.
signs all over Germany now. We have no gasoline. That much snow. So something really, really exciting is happening. I'm very glad to be back on your show, Clay. And you were telling me yesterday when you invited me on that you had Gordon Duff on. I have tremendous admiration for Gordon Duff.
He'll be on my show. He'll be on my show here next week. I've got all that update, and yeah, Gordon Duff will be on Thursday. Jordan Maxwell was going to be on Monday, and William Blair, who's working with the Lakota Chiefs on Declaration of Rights for their people. Jody Emery will be on Wednesday, and she's the wife of Mark Emery, who is now doing time in the United States for marijuana. They own Cannabis Culture magazine. Captain Eric May will be on, and Larry Pratt from Gun Owners America. So I've got a pretty good lineup. And well,
that's very impressive. You know, I love Gordon Duff because he was a Marine, he fought in Vietnam, and his turning point, I guess, was horrible mistreatment by the VA, the Veterans Administration. Somebody told me that I trust he's also part Jewish, which is interesting because if that is true, because an awful lot of people who are Jewish or part Jewish have been really stepping forward and doing great things for the freedom movement, the truth movement in America. In fact, I've had correspondence with Brother Nathaniel Kapner.
Kapner's been on my show. Matter of fact, I gotta say this. I gotta say this right now. I've got a magazine here with I don't have it on me, but I've got a magazine with Aaron Russo on the cover. Aaron Russo was Jewish. He was a wonderful patriot, and I believe they killed him for telling people, for revealing his conversation with Nicholas Rockefeller about wanting to chip all of us.
Yes, indeed. I think it's entirely possible that they have ways of introducing fast-growing cancer in dangerous critics. One of the reasons why I have many people living in my house now is of course, I'm preparing to create what I hope will be a mass movement to take back our country and Western civilization. But also, I have learned through my 32 years in my cause, the cause of white preservation, that if you are a dangerous dissident who is having an impact on the Zionist occupation government, and you live alone, and you drive your car alone, you are really asking to be put away.
Or ride a motorcycle and make the mistake of telling somebody on your AT&T cell phone what direction you're going in, or what road you're going to be on, and when you're going to be there, you know.
Yes, exactly. Well, you know,
especially when you've got two Israeli-operated companies doing all of the tapping, and they're also, by the way, providing all of the security for all those nuclear weapons that all those Jewish spies stole from us. You know, and this is the problem. Every time you start looking at this, here's the Rosenbergs, here's the Rothschilds, you know, here's the Bernie Madoffs, you know, and people are screaming at you, you know, you're anti-Semitic, you're anti-Semitic. It has nothing to do with being anti-Semitic. It has to do with not appreciating and not tolerating criminals, liars, and thieves.
Well, it's exactly right. One of the things that I offer to everyone who supports my work, the movement that I'm beginning, the Eternal Salutrians, if they donate $100 or more, I have volunteers who will walk them step by step through completely encrypting, that is, encoding all your emails to your select list of friends. I help people switch from Windows over to a wonderful and absolutely free operating system with blazing speed. It's called Linux, Linux. It's named after a guy in Finland, the computer genius named Linus Torvalds. And your computer will reboot in 60 seconds. No spyware, no viruses, no nothing. And then I help people install Thunderbird, which saves all your emails to your hard drive, at least if you have one special email account where you're getting valuable emails, not the usual junk and spam. And then you can encrypt all your emails so that Zog will know to whom you're sending it, but they can see the message, but it's all in code and it stays in code. And I've talked with an expert over in England on encryption, and he says the advantage has shifted massively to the side of the encoder, not the decoder. If you don't have the decoding formula, it says it could take 2 years with a mega computer to crack a well-coded message. So, you know, just as, you know, they can try to kill you on your motorcycle, if they know where you're going, where you're headed, and when, what Americans need to realize is we are revealing via our emails what our political thoughts are, or our racial views, who our friends are, who agrees with us, where we're going, when we're taking vacation, what flight we're taking, everything. And this makes it incredibly easy for the enemy of freedom to literally murder us. And then you have people who are dissidents, and they end up being accidented, suicided, stroked, cancer.
I'd like to talk about that for a minute. Let me interrupt you for a moment, but and direct your thoughts to Edgar Steele. I just had Cindy Steele on my show a few days ago. Yeah, that's his wife. That's his wife, and she states he didn't try to do nothing. The informer stole $50,000 worth of silver from Edgar, and then ran to the ADL and said he gave it to us. He gave it to me to kill his wife, and he planted bombs in the car, and he ain't gonna get no time. He ain't gonna do nothing. And Edgar's still sitting in prison, charged with hiring this thieving sucker.
Yeah, it's a horrifying situation. All I can say for Edgar is that he had believed some defamatory charges against a very good friend of mine, Joe Fields, morals charges, down in Los Angeles. Joe Fields was a very high-profile activist for white civil rights in the Los Angeles area. And then Zog trumped up some ludicrous morals charges against him. And, you know, Edgar Steele went ahead and just repeated those charges on his website and circulated them. And I wrote, you know, you should never believe anything that Zog says against one of our activists. You know, with the public, they say he's a hate-filled racist and white supremacist. But towards people who are in the white movement, you know, that won't affect them. They'll like you more if you're pro-white. So what they say then is you're a homosexual, or you molest kids, or you're stealing money, or they defame your character. So
I don't know if you know this right now, but I was listed on the the SPLC listed me 8 years ago as a militia guy. I was a militia guy, and they reran that in the NAACP, but put it up on the NAACP website. The Kansas City Star picked up the story. It went viral. It went over the NAACP website. And people are calling me from New Jersey. Are you anti-Semitic? Why are you asking? Why? Well, they listed you as being a bigot and anti-Semitic, based on something 8 years ago and 40 to watch by the SPLC. So the attacks on me are continuing. You know, I've learned my lesson. I mean, you know, I always had the motto that every phone I use is tapped, and everybody in the four-wheeler is trying to kill me. So you know, I drive pretty defensively.
Right. Well, this is what I say in a video which I'm working on now to the brainwashed white folks of America. I said, for 32 years I have been a cause where, while you've been popping your brewskis and scratching your rump and watching the Negro Football League and basically dozing, the government, the terror regime in Washington, has been slowly, gradually killing individual white dissidents and railroading them into prison. And my friend Sean Walker, who was the chairman of the National Alliance, a former Marine, sniper, was a trained biologist. He got 6 years in prison for a supposed bar fight in Salt Lake City, Utah, 2 years after the supposed incident happened, and the Mexican he supposedly got in a bar fight with was so badly injured he went skiing the next day on the ski slopes, and he got 6 years for a bar fight.
John, let me ask you this. I've been in Tucson for almost 2 years. I started, been doing my radio show and promoting that. I walk into a biker bar here, and suddenly I'm accused of selling books. My book, Mystery Babylon. I'm selling books to raise money for a snitch named Huevos. And suddenly everybody wants to fight with me. Everybody wants to pick a fight. Suddenly everybody is, you can't come on this run. You can't come in this bar. You know, my husband was put in jail by Huevos. I don't know who Huevos is. This and this same type of demonization, the same type of rumor mongering is going on in the Breakfast Club that I've been attending here for 2 years and speaking here for 10 years. I mean, I've been coming to Arizona to speak at the Breakfast Club for 10 years. And
that's got to hurt.
Suddenly it's Clay, he's our dictator, he's this, he's that, yeah, we need to vote him out. And you're only talking about 2 or 3 people that are sitting over in a corner together trying to figure a way to keep me from being more effective in reaching people and expanding everything and growing everything and promoting the restaurant that's allowing us to meet there, you know?
Well, what people don't understand is that when Jesus Christ spoke of the Jewish leadership in the Gospel of John, which the J team really hates the Gospel of John. They don't like Matthew, Mark, and Luke either, the other evangelists. But when it comes to the Apostle John, boy, they hate that book. They call it the most anti-Semitic book in the New Testament. And in John chapter 8, as many people know, Jesus said of the Jewish leaders, "You are from your father, the devil, and there is no truth in you. He was a murderer and a defamer from the beginning, and you do the will of your father." He says, "You can't hear my words because there is no truth in you." These are people who live by defamation. They will try to attack the message. And if the crowd likes the message, then they'll attack the messenger. In fact, Jack Bernstein wrote a great book. You can get it online. It's just 32 pages, called My Life as an American Jew in Racist Marxist Israel. A very interesting guy, very honest guy.
Yeah, he married a Sephardic Jew, and they were so discriminated against by the Ashkenazi Jews that they couldn't even go into a restaurant without being harassed by the police.
You know what's hilarious about it is that, of course, the Ashkenazi Jews, the Eastern European Jews, the Polish and Russian Jews, they have so much white and Slavic blood in them that they're much more white-skinned than the Sephardic Jews, who mostly descend from the actual Jews of the Bible. And they are basically white supremacists themselves. They say, we are the white-skinned Jews. I mean, think of the Israeli politicians. They may have a Jewish-shaped nose, or they may have dark hair or whatever, but they basically are white-skinned, semi-European-looking people. Whereas the brown-skinned, Mediterranean-looking Sephardic Jews, they descend from the original Jews, and they are treated as third-class citizens in Israel by the white supremacist Russian and Polish Jews. And Jack Bernstein talked about it. And he wrote a wonderful book, and right at the beginning of the book, he talks about the stages of eliminating a critic. The first thing they do is ignore you. If they can't ignore you because you're making waves and people are starting to listen to you, then they defame you. They attack your message, and if that doesn't work, they attack your character. They say bad things about you as a person, and right down to the worst possible things in a white conservative movement such as I am in. You know, I read constantly. Some guy wrote to me the other day that I was a homosexual. Doesn't matter that I've been married twice. I've been in a relationship with another woman for 5 years now. I have 2 kids, both of whom are well known on the internet. I publish pictures of my children. I've had several women who were friends with mine on Facebook, and they were my lovers throughout almost all the 1990s. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And once I disprove this outrageous defamation of me being a homosexual, they switch to another defamation. They just switch to something else. They did the same thing with Adolf Hitler in the 1920s. They said he was a homosexual, and they said he was a skirt chaser. They said that he had sex with his own niece. They said he was a coward. Now, it's kind of difficult because the guy had 2 Iron Crosses from 4 solid years of combat in World War I. What he finally had to do, because that was something that really bothered him to be called a coward, he got an affidavit from his commanding general in the German army and from his sergeant, his top, as used to say in the army. And with those affidavits, he went to court against his accusers who accused him of being a coward. But then you see, then they switched to something else. Then they said he was an agent of Wall Street. He was the illegitimate great-grandson of a Rothschild. They said he was an agent of Mussolini.
Let me see what I've got. Let's see. I'm a right-wing extremist. I'm anti-government. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a militia guy from Albuquerque. I'm anti-Semitic. I'm a racist. I've had 4 black men on my shows in the last month. You know, I don't care what color you are, and I don't even care what religion you are. If you're Christian or you're Jewish, no problem. Our Constitution covers that. You know,
yes, exactly. The word Aryan is a beautiful word, and it means noble in Sanskrit. And people say, well, you believe in the Aryan race. I do. I believe that a lot of white people have great nobility in them, particularly in this cause. But there are black people And they're Jewish people and Chinese people and Hindus from India who also have a noble character, and they are working with me. I have a non-white volunteer from Los Angeles. He's part Egyptian and he's part African, black African, and he is noble. So he is, in the Sanskrit meaning of the word, Arya. He is an Aryan. I truly believe we're in a spiritual struggle, and I believe the white race has a high percentage of good and noble people in it, and I believe the Jewish race has a lot of psychopaths and bad eggs. But by God, there's white scum, and people like Gordon Duff, who, if my information is correct, is part Jewish. He's a noble person. And another person who is, by the way, half part Jewish and is a great hero is Alan Sobrowski, who was as sure you know, and many of your listeners may know, came out openly and said the Israelis did 9/11. And what is so important about this is this guy has a lot to lose. He had a great career with the U.S. military. He was, like Gordon Duff, he was a Marine in Vietnam, and he was in some major military think tanks, and he was the director of studies at the U.S. Army War College in Pennsylvania, which is where all these colonels go. It's the school you go to become a general or even an admiral in the Navy. It's one of the top military academies in the United States for high-level officers. And he steps forward. He is part Jewish. And then Alan, many Jews have the first name Alan, last name Sobrowski. It's Jewish. And this guy steps forward. So I tell you what, I'd rather sit down and have a cup of coffee or a beer with Alan Sobrowski or Gordon Duff any day than some white scumbag like Bill Gates or George Bush or Dick Cheney.
Yes, that's right. I mean, don't give me. Who even knows? Exactly who your grandmother slept with. So we've got. But let me ask you. Let me go back to this white race. I am just working on a novel. I started it 40 years ago, and it was about the continent of Atlantis during the first passing of Planet X. And the Atlanteans were a very far advanced race, and they built pyramids and civilizations and temples all around the world. And they were white. They were white. And I think in my novel, in my imagination 40 years ago, this white race went out and colonized the stars. They were the ETs, or they came from here. Doesn't even it reaches a point, maybe we came here, maybe we went back.
Well, that's a very interesting point. It might be a good point to segue into what I have discovered about the Anasazi civilization in the southwest of the United States. I am very interested, as are millions of people, in this idea of Atlantis. We do know that the great classical Greek philosopher Plato repeated the stories which an Egyptian high priest had told him, as the priest being deadly serious, that there was a massive civilization that became wicked and aggressive, kind of like the United States government today, and attacked everybody, and it was a huge war, and then suddenly a natural catastrophe overwhelmed that high-tech civilization, which had become very wicked and amoral, and it disappeared overnight, and only some survivors living on the fringes or the outlying colonies of Atlantis survived. And of course, civilization was thrown back by 1,000 years.
In my novels, the population, because the passing of Planet X, or what I called the time 40 years ago, I hadn't heard of Planet X, the celestial conjunction, Mars and Venus coming too close to planet Earth, creating a spectacular electrical discharge. Those craters on the moon and on Mars are from electrical discharges, they're finding out, not volcanoes. And they sent most of the population out to the stars because they didn't know if the sun would go nova or not. Now, whether that's actually happened, 10,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, I don't know. But the battle, in my mind, the battle was between the captain and the first mate on the Earth ship they built, a UFO, called Heaven. There were a few more built. Atlanta, from the Atlanteans, they built the Olympus and the Asgard, and of course Heaven. And their job was to keep civilization and maintain the civilization that they had. But the other people on the planet, in Africa or in India, in South America, they were really the slaves. They worked the mines, they grew the crops, and supplied the drugs to the advanced race.
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating story. I don't necessarily believe in it, but I'm very open-minded to the whole concept. The fact that I also believe in the possibility of reincarnation, and when so many millions of people are so deeply fascinated by a story, the doctrine of reincarnation says you don't retain any specific memories of previous lives, but could actually be reincarnating into the fetus of a baby. All these memories and factoids from 100 previous lives, they can't go into that tiny brain. That filter blocks it out. But what does remain is we feel an attraction towards certain things, or a repulsion and a revulsion towards other things and other people. We feel a love and affection for certain things, and we find other things disgraceful, and instinctively we feel a loathing for it. And that is a carryover the doctrine of reincarnation teaches. And when people are so fascinated with Atlantis, I have a feeling that one explanation is that they had lived in Atlantis. Or there were other countries. I mean, in Plato's account, Atlantis it was a just and free republic, like the early Roman Republic that went evil and went wicked, and it attacked the ancient empire of Athens, Greece, and also attacked Egypt, unprovoked attacks to enslave them, and Egypt and Athens fought back successfully, but there were many people who were victims of the Atlanteans in the last days of that civilization, which had become decadent. And I think a lot of people, when they think about America today, they think like this is a repeat of the Roman Empire. Well, it could be also a repeat of
Atlantis,
of what happened to that supposed civilization of Atlantis.
Well, that's exactly what my book, The Lucifer Legends, deal with.
When is your novel coming out?
Well, I wrote it 40 years ago. I updated it for a screenplay. I've got one short story that's been completed for 40 years, and the novels are being retyped. And with the additional information I've acquired over the last 40 years, it'll probably be as controversial and as deep as the Da Vinci Code by Brown.
Well, I look forward to that. Well, I'd like to talk today, if I may, move
about the Anasazi.
Related.
Continue a little bit with the Anasazi. What happened to them, and who were they? Are you saying they were white? They were the descendants of the Atlanteans? And you know, there's one other thing I might bring up. It may be a touchy subject, but all of these ancient capitals, the pyramids, and all these ancient civilizations scattered around the world, they're all in prime dope growing regions. Cocaine in South America, heroin and opium in the Middle East. Is that coincidence?
Well, it's possible. Certainly, all peoples have had mood-altering substances.
Well, now remember, cocaine is more expensive and more valuable than gold by weight. So, the world's built on trade, and we've got our troops guarding the opium poppy fields in Afghanistan because those nasty old Taliban were destroying them.
Well, that's an absolute fact. The Taliban was shutting down the opium business, which was ruining the young people of Europe and the United States.
And
the Taliban,
Europeans,
which is against the opium trade.
Europeans, the East India Trade Company, they were in the opium business. They have been in the heroin business. The CIA and the Mossad